Every morning when I wake up, I go outside to soak in the sun. And in those early sunrise hours, the never-stopping, always roaring highway speaks to me. The rumble of engines and the screaming of several-ton metal tubes give way to real, genuine human words. Words that go away when I cover my ears, which is why I say it speaks to me. It's not telepathy or something horrifyingly intrusive, just normal words. Words that I can choose not to hear. But if I'm being honest, listening to its words is my guilty pleasure. It tells me things I could have never known. Mostly things about my neighbors, and once about someone in a passing car, though I think that man lives just a street or two over. It's never things I wasn't already assuming, so, at least at first, I believed it was just some part of my consciousness projecting back at me. The Thompsons' dad is a chronic gambler. No surprise. He's constantly asking me if I'm betting on whatever game is playing for whatever sport, depending on the season. Winslow's widow, Ariana, is sad enough that she's bought a gun. Who would have thought a widow would feel depressed? The highway told me she has no family now. Turns out she ran away from home 15 years ago and never looked back at her abusive mom and hapless father. Chuck Morgan, the kid with a white trash family 3 doors down, he thinks about smothering his father every night. Hell, he's even gotten as close as hovering over that snoring slob once before. The highway has told me things for a long time, the better part of 2 years now. But when the Bakshi's moved in, something changed. The highway stopped telling me about all of my neighbors and started saying the same thing every morning, one time.
His skin isn't real.
That was it. I'd never tried to ask the highway anything. That always felt too invasive before. But after a week, I couldn't stand it. Kamal was a normal enough guy. Born to Indian parents in New York, moved down to Maryland for work. He wasn't married, but was dating, though his parents didn't know. He had told me once, when we caught each other taking the garbage down at the same time, an event I purposefully orchestrated after watching from my window for several hours on trash night, that his parents are holding out for an arrangement. And so, for the first time, I spoke back to the highway, after ignoring it for so long. What the fuck does that even mean?
It's not his skin.
Whose skin is it? I asked, with no response until the next morning, when I asked again, with a desperation that had kept me wide awake.
Kamal's the real one.
The highway replied.
The skin is a suit. He's a proper businessman. The full 3 pieces. Face, body, and legs. But the tie is wrong. You'll see it if you look.
That night, I did not sleep again, even with 2 days waxing into 3. The following day, when I crawled out of bed, I struggled even to shower, and I did not eat. All I could think about was what the highway had told me, but I couldn't bring myself to go outside, to ask it more, to hear more of its whispered secrets. I regretted it now, knowing things I shouldn't have known, listening to it at all. These were other people's lives, their intimate secrets, things not meant for me. Just before sundown, I wandered outside to drag my trash bin back toward the house, having forgotten to do so in my stupor. That's when Kamal came, crossing the yard, a friendly smile showing his grinning teeth, and joined with a happy, bird-like wave. I felt like I was looking at a naked man waltzing in public. The highway told me his skin was wrong, that it wasn't his, but it looked fine, at least with no inspection, no attention. It was something I could not avoid, and the words of the highway were impossible to erase from my memory. The face looked fine as he yapped and yapped about something I would never remember. The body, torso, looked fine. Doughy, but not unhealthy. The skin hugged the meat the way it should with anyone. His legs looked normal too, despite his constant fidgeting. But then I looked toward his neck, the tie, like the highway said, and it was wrong. Categorically, certifiably wrong. The skin near his collarbone, which was rarely exposed, folded under the skin of his neck like two pieces of paper laying unevenly together. The same was true just beneath his jawline. The strange fold was almost entirely imperceivable beneath the beard that covered it. "Hey, Timbo, you with us?" Kamal asked with a smile. "Huh? Yeah, I'm sorry." I laughed nervously. "Just woo, you know? Brain is all over the place today." "That's all good, man. But what do you think? Busy tomorrow?" No, I don't think so." "Why?" "Game night? I just mentioned it." Kamal tapped the side of his head and laughed. "You really are a space cadet today, huh?" "Right. Game night." I snapped my fingers. "Yeah, I'm definitely down. What time did you say again?" 6 p.m. On the dot. And hey, don't be late. We like to get started right on time." With every word he spoke, I could see the flaps of skin shrink and expand. It took every ounce of willpower in my body not to stare at them, not to give away that I was on to him. We exchanged goodbyes, and I waltzed back up the sloped driveway toward my house, but stopped with my hand on the doorknob. My body wanted to turn around, to watch him walk, to see if there was anything I could notice in his gait that seemed off, if any additional details would confirm what the highway had told me was true. I didn't turn around and went inside and straight to my room. I got almost no sleep, and work was hell. I signed off at 5 p.m. as always, took a shower that lasted 3 times longer than usual as I tried to fight the growing, ominous feeling in the pit of my stomach, and then got dressed and headed over. I rang the doorbell, and Kamal answered immediately. "Hey man, good to see you," he said excitedly, ushering me onto the landing between the upstairs and downstairs of his split level. "Hey, yeah, I just appreciate getting the invite," I said, but when I looked down, there were no spare sets of shoes on the worn-out wood of the landing. I asked, "Where are the others?" "Oh, just downstairs," Kamal replied, waving me on, beckoning me to lead the way down. The basement was dark, save for a thin strip of light that seemed to be coming from under a door. What are we playing? I asked him nervously, my sweaty hand barely able to grip the polished wooden rail leading me down toward the basement. Oh, you know, Kamal said slowly. As I rounded the small corner at the bottom of the stairwell and opened the door, it became immediately apparent that no one else was here. There were no people, no games, no night either, given the distinct lack of windows by which to tell the time. Just 4 recessed lights humming with a pale, sterile white. And a shrine of some kind, maybe 2 feet by 2 feet in size, and 2 feet tall. A featureless mannequin standing central to a marble dance floor. I watched the little doll's pattering feet stop, then watched it hunch over slightly at the waist as it fumbled with some invisible circular object. You're not Kamal, I said.
How did you know?
The creature standing behind me asked, as I heard the door creak shut and lock. The highway told me, I replied, too terrified to turn around.
Are you going to tell anyone?
It asked, creeping closer and closer behind me, until I could feel its cold stench lick at the hairs on the back of my neck. It felt like my skin was pulling up, tightening around the top of my skull. No. I stuttered through a nervous laugh. Who would I tell? The highway?
That's exactly what I'm afraid of.
It replied, before I felt some unseen appendage, unnatural to humans, wrap my neck. It was not warm or slimy like I had been expecting. Too many horror movies, too many stories. It was cold, dry, effective, efficient. A tool meant only to block the surrounding air from reaching my lungs. When I woke up the next day, I was lying on my back porch, but my skin felt wrong, hollow, like a juice box squeezed in the grubby hands of a child at the community pool.
Was I right?
The highway whispered to me as the morning sun soaked my strange-fitting face. And I did not respond.